Hi, everybody, it's Carrie again. Today's topic hopefully doesn't bore you, but it is about God is boring. And I've kind of looked at this as, you know, being ethical, being moral, following the rules. Okay, it's not a lot of fun. There's a lack of adventure and excitement and being able to accomplish and get everything you want for yourself. Those are all fun things that bring us temporary satisfaction that we like to define as happiness. Happiness is something that you find inside of you. Um, Boring is something you define for yourself. But just because God is good does not mean good is boring. Good can be, your definition is going to be different. God can be exciting, very exciting. And if you read the Bible, you'll see many different things, that he does, he accomplishes. Where we're stuck in a society is looking at the power of manifestation and being able to say, I can accomplish anything I want. I can make that happen. I can create that. Almost like we're a bunch of, and say hi to Romeo. he's awake and he's having fun and he's messing around with everything. And this should be exciting. See, and God brought this little guy to me. So there's excitement in everything here, but really it's the definition of bad things tend to be more exciting depending on how we want to define them. Just because God's good and good things mean following the rules and having morals and ethics does not mean it's bad. Okay, we can still have a lot of fun. We can still embrace life and enjoy it and create happiness. The power of manifestation, when I talk about that, it's the power of creation, but you have to be careful who's creating it. Is it God or is it Satan? Sometimes Satan will give you everything you want. You're falling right into his hands and into his power. Never think that the power of manifestation is you. You're not doing that. Some other source, if you are really manifesting all of these miraculous things into your life, one, you're working hard for it, but something in this universe is giving you those opportunities that other people aren't getting. So ask yourself where they're coming from. That's, definitely something that I do now because I think I got trapped in all that. But generally, what we find exciting are the wrong things to do. Okay, look at this from the perspective of a small child. There goes my lighting. I'm clearly not going to be able to make this video. This kitten has decided I'm going to show you God's not boring. We're going on. I'm sorry if you can't see me all that clearly, but we're just going to keep moving forward. This is how life works. We do not let things get the best of us. And you can kind of see me. Let's just move on. Let him have his moment in his spotlight that he feels should be on the floor. Life is not boring. This could not be a better topic to have right now around this kitten. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, going back to a small child. Okay, anyone who's been around small kids and they try to tell you these little fibs and these tales, when they can get away with a lie, they seriously think they've just hung the moon. Like, whoa, I got away with that. And there's an adrenaline and there's an excitement in them. And believe it or not, you feel it when you're older too. When you get away with something that you shouldn't have. And you're like, oh, there's a part of it. Thank God I didn't get caught. Right? That's exciting. That's not boring. So then you go, hey, I would have followed the rules. That would have been so boring. It depends on what you're doing in life to bring you excitement that is going to define whether it's boring or not. Okay, so basically that's what I'm getting at here is your definition of what boring actually is. Manipulating others, controlling others. When you kind of manipulate a situation where you're not telling a lie, you're not completely divulging all the truth, and the situation turns out in your favor, there is a part of you that says, oh, hey, I can't believe I got away with that. You know, it's nobody knows that I managed that, but no harm, no foul, right? It's not like anything bad came out of it, but you still escaped looking like the good guy. Well, not necessarily. The truth will always catch up with you, even though you didn't actually lie. That manipulation at some point in time, even if it's 20 or 30 years later, will catch up with you. And that's not going to be so much fun. Okay, so manipulating others, getting power. A lot of people think that power is good, and if we give God all of our power, well, you know, we didn't do anything. Yes, we did. By giving God the praise for our accomplishments, because there's nothing that we accomplish on our own. Every opportunity you're given is given to you because it was allotted to you. All right? Otherwise, everybody would have the same exact opportunities, and we don't. So, you know, and when you're looking at those opportunities and defining whether they're good or bad ones and how you got your power, ask yourself who gave you that power. Was it God or was it Satan? Because Satan gives out a lot of power. God just tends to turn that power around, and sometimes then we suffer for all the things that we think are fun and exciting. Ask any drug addict, ask any alcoholic that has a great night out in the town, and then they have to live with the consequences of their actions the next day. How many times have some of us gone out drinking and then went, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done this, or this. Oh, look how hopefully everybody just forgets about it. You know, and yeah, okay, it was fun at the time, but not so fun when you have to live with the consequences of it. So if just sitting there that night and drinking soda and laughing at all the other fools in the bar is boring, it's not boring. Let me tell you, you get some great amusement just sitting in a bar watching some of these people, okay? And it doesn't have to be boring, okay? Life doesn't have to be boring. God supplies us with the beauty of nature. And if we go to a park, taking a walk through a park doesn't have to be boring if you are appreciating what's around you. That's the thing, is we don't appreciate as much as we should. And once we start doing that, we can see it's not boring. It's beautiful. It's exciting. You know, watching trees grow and flowers bloom that you've planted yourself. Just because it takes forever doesn't mean it's boring. You don't sit there every minute of the day and watch them, but as it transgresses and happens, you're like, wow, that's really amazing. That's really beautiful. So even though it took a long time to grow it before you could see the end result, that part seems boring if you're just going to sit there and watch it. Then, well, God's creations are boring. But we don't just sit there and just watch that one seed. Okay, we do a multitude of things. And when we're enjoying a picnic in the park, if God hadn't supplied that beautiful nature, that picnic wouldn't be as much fun as it is. Taking a walk through the woods and enjoying nature and the fresh air wouldn't be as wonderful as it is if God was so boring. We do enjoy those things. We enjoy, you know, stuff in nature. We enjoy getting together with friends and family, you know, doing simpler things. What I am finding is a lot of people are defining fun that is bringing them a happiness, bad things, which is power, manipulation, control, drugs, alcohol, sex. All of these things give us a temporary satisfaction. So when we go, well, if I would have done the right thing, it would have been so boring. I did this, that was exciting, it was an adventure. Yeah, well, there's going to be consequences to those actions. So even though Satan's ways are more fun in some cases, also more dangerous. And I don't know how many times I have to say this, but once you're on that path, getting back to the start is a lot harder than getting to the finish line, because the finish line is the fact that Satan wants your soul just as much as God does. A huge part of me just feels we're on earth to not sell our soul, but decide where our soul is going to go. If you read the Bible, even up through Revelations, there are a number of souls that are going to go with Satan. There's a number of souls that are going to go to heaven. Okay? Where do you want your soul to go? Where do you want to reside forever? It's almost like you're here to pick a side. Where do you want to go? And if going to heaven means you have a boring life on earth, keep in mind it's only 120 years max, according to the Bible. And I think I can give 120 years of boring for an eternity, but I personally don't think this life is boring. I think being able to listen to music and be joyous and happy without having to drink or take drugs, having conversations with friends or getting to meet new people, taking a walk through the park, taking a hike through the woods, going camping, snowmobiling. Back in the day, it used to be being on a motorcycle. Just so many things are exciting. Even going to the grocery store and walking around and having a conversation with a random stranger can be exciting if you want it to be. God is only boring if that's how you're going to go into it thinking. And the reason we go into thinking God is boring is because we go, it's not going to be any fun. I can't break the rules. If I'm going to be with God, I got to follow all of these rules. Well, look at it this way. There's less betrayal. There's less addiction. There's less bad habits or patterns to break if we're following the rules to begin with. And if rules weren't needed, why do we have laws and police departments? They're needed no matter what, whether we're following God's rules or we're following our laws. They're needed to protect you and I from the bad stuff. And God, this is how I try to look at it, as a father. He's adopted me. When I became a Christian, I became an adopted member of God's family. Okay? He adopted me, took me in, forgave me for everything, gives me a fresh slate, a clean start. I'll still sin, I'll still do bad things. God is a father. What do fathers or parents do when they're raising a child? And when you first become a Christian, I look at it this way too. It's not boring at all, because there's a whole new lifestyle that you have to take on. And you're this little baby that doesn't even know, you're barely suckling off of a bottle, right? Trying to survive in this new Christian world, trying to learn all this stuff about Christianity and how to do it right. And there's no real way to do it right, okay? What it is your personal relationship with God that you start building that feels a little strange at first because you feel like you're talking to thin air. And eventually you learn that's your best friend. That's the person that you go to. That's your confidant. That's your leader, your ruler. But it's your parent. And any parent that has a small child that raises it from an infant to a toddler sees that, okay, as an infant, you can control it. You can control where it goes. Toddlers, once they start walking and running, they're into everything. So Christianity can be a little bit like that. When you're first a Christian, you're absorbing everything, taking it all in, trying to be as good as you can. But then all of a sudden you get your feet underneath you and you're off breaking rules and doing different things, and you're like, you're still learning. Okay, you're learning the whole time. And God is like this parent that says, I'm going to treat you well and give you great gifts on earth for being my child. But I'm also going to punish you. I don't really want to say God punishes us, but he lets us go through the consequences of our actions instead of pulling us from them. Because it's like a parent that says the stove is hot. You can tell your child that 100 times. If they're going to touch the stove, they're going to touch the stove, and then they're going to learn it's hot, and they're going to stop. They go, whoa, that was hot. You're like, yeah, I told you. Told you 100 times. But you had to do it anyway, didn't you? We're like that even as grown adults. God is trying to tell us, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And we're like, just one time. I'll do it now and ask for forgiveness later. How many times have you heard people say that? Like with their parents, teenagers, do it all the time. Well, I'll do this now and I'll ask for forgiveness later. You suffer the consequences. Parents then have to handle punishments. Punishments come with suffering. There is great suffering in this world. I've always said too, if you really read the Bible, those who suffered the most were God's favorites. I must be pretty high on that list because I have suffered a lot, let me tell you. That better be true. I have earned myself some treasure. Though I might be the outcast and the loneliest and the worst that people want to think on earth, I got a funny feeling I'm going to have a pretty nice spot in heaven when I get there. God willing. I don't know. I don't know why he would want me there because, man, I've done a lot of bad things here. But he's like this great father that says, no matter how many bad things you do, I'm still going to love you. Another thing I've noticed that I've read through the Bible that makes God not boring, it almost makes him human to me, is he cries, he gets angry, he dishes out wrath, he says he's disappointed. He has all these feelings, and he says them in the Bible. He says how he's feeling. He doesn't say that we should hide these feelings and we should feel bad and we should reject them. He shows us that it's okay to have feelings. And I'll be honest with you, since I've really gotten to know the Bible on a deeper and deeper level and built my relationship with God, he's not boring at all. Sometimes I feel so bad that God cried at all. But like any parent that loves their child, and their child does something really, really bad, and they still stand beside them, and they're weeping and they're crying because they know the suffering and the punishment and the pain that their child's going to have to go through for what they did. They cry. It's like God watching us do bad things, but then having to suffer hardship for our consequences of our actions and not being able to say, I can't put a Band-Aid on this. And it makes God cry. Just like a parent that stands by our side and says, okay, you're going to jail. I'll write you. I'll be there. I can't stop this from happening. You did that. This is the punishment for your actions. I can't get you out of it. And I would pray that any parent wouldn't even want to get their child out of it. That child, even as a grown adult, is going to have to suffer those consequences of their actions. The only thing you can do is love them through it. Just don't turn your back on them. And it's hard because sometimes we see things like serial killers and their parents still stand beside them and we go, oh my gosh, I'd disown them. How dare you stand beside your child and still talk to that person and blah, blah, blah. Look at, they're horrible. They're evil. We're horrible and evil. God still gave us Christ. Christ died, suffered horrifically, beatings and being outcast and crucified. Because God loved us that much to say, you're evil, and this is the only way I can forgive you. As if all of your evil is put on Jesus, and he absorbs it, then I can let you into heaven. Otherwise, I can't let you in. So God loved us enough to say, at some time our sentence will be done. At some time, you will be set free of this human world and be allowed to be with him. But as long as you're a Christian and you've put your faith in Jesus and accept him as your Savior, God's always going to stand by your side. He's always going to be there, no matter what evil you have done. And I can't say that those parents that stand beside their evil children are so bad. They just love like God loves. It's their child. No matter how old they are, they still love them. They gave birth to that. God created us. He gave birth to that. He loves us that way. Sometimes seeing God in a more human way makes us realize he's not boring. He's a beautiful, wonderful person. We wouldn't say our parents are boring. We just know that our parents look out for us in our best interest. And sometimes that means telling you can't do the fun stuff. That's because they're protecting you from Satan. Most fun, what we call fun, is temptation. And you can have fun in anything you do. It's how you choose to look at it. You want to say going to church is boring. It's going to be boring. You planted that seed in your head. If you want to say, I am going to my home, my church, I feel free, I feel forgiven, I'm one with God there. And you walk in and you sing those songs with passion because you've planted that seed that that's what you're going to do and you are going to make the best of it, you will enjoy yourself. Fun is all in how you want to look at it. And I'm finding, people don't want to plant the seeds of fun in certain things. That's up to you. And you can make anything fun. I've taken some of the worst times of my life, where it's like, well, I should really be mad right now. I should really be upset. But I wasn't. I started cracking jokes. I started taking the bad moments and turning them around. I made them fun. So it's how you want to look at it. What you want to make out of it is what it's going to be. So boring, nothing has to be boring. Nothing. Sitting in a doctor's office doesn't even have to be boring. You can do something fun. You can make it creative. It's what you want to make out of it. That is what it's going to be. That's basically the moral there, is fun is how we choose to define it. Happiness is inside of you. The pursuit of happiness is available to all of us, but I'm going to tell you what, you're not going to find it in the outside world. You're going to find happiness inside of you. And that's because that's how you choose to think of things. What's in your mind and what's in your heart and how you choose to behave and think about things is where you're going to find your happiness. You make your own happiness. Nobody else can make you happy. Nobody else can give you happiness. The pursuit of happiness is inside of you. Look deep inside. Choose to take everything, including sitting in a dentist waiting room, and make it interesting. Use your creativity, your imagination. It's what God gave it to you for. Instead of going, well, Satan, get me out of here. Give me something fun to do. No. Don't go there. You use what God gave you to enjoy every moment of your life. And you'll be happy. And you don't have to have other people to do that either. You don't have to be codependent. You can do that all on your own. So My Bible phrase of the day comes from John chapter 10, verse 10. And it says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." And that is true. Thieves, they're going to steal, kill, and destroy. They don't care what they're doing wrong, but they think that they're going to be happy with all of the things that they've accomplished, and by destroying and taking its power and control. And Jesus, basically, is what they're talking about, came that we could have a life, and we can have it abundantly, richly. So it's not in the material things that the thief takes from us. And it's not in the mental things that the thief takes from us if we don't let that thief, live in our mind. We have a very abundant, rich life in all the free things that are out there. One of the things that I like to tell people is the greatest gift on this earth, the best thing you can give anybody, is free. And it's your time. How many times would you like people to give you their time and not have to pay for it, and not have to feel bad about it? And time is so limited. When somebody gives it to you, it's a treasure. It's great abundance, and it's free. And when people give you their time, that's a choice. They're choosing you. Don't take it for granted. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. There was one other Bible verse that came to mind with all of this, and it's in Proverbs, which is basically the book of wisdom, I call it. I love it. Chapter 13, verse 4, and says, "The soul of the sluggard..." I'm sorry, it's really dark, and there's a dog barking outside. That, if you can hear that, I'm so sorry. The neighbor's dog just, I don't know why, does it all the time. Anyway, let me start over. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 4. "The soul of the sluggard..." Oh, no, I can't read either. Okay, so forgive me. So I only have one light now, so that makes this even worse. "The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied." Sluggard meaning, like, if you're a couch potato, you're just going to sit there and you're going to expect life to happen and do nothing. You're going to crave and you're going to get nothing out of it. But the soul of the diligent is going to be richly supplied. I really think that proverb speaks for itself. And it is kind of funny how God knew some of us were going to be sluggards, and I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty sometimes of just sitting there and expecting life to happen to me. Good things. Just, okay. Miracles out of nowhere. But if I'm not doing something to achieve that, it's not going to ever happen. So it's like being a sloth, moving very slowly towards your goals. Now, I'm not saying, do things outside of certain boundaries to make your goals happen. Sometimes it takes a long time to get there, and you will get it when the time is right. Not necessarily when you want it, but when God says it's time. And sometimes we do have to be patient. That doesn't mean that we just sit there and wait for it to happen. Life keeps going in that interim, and we have to make our own happiness. And God is not boring at all. One of the stories of the Bible that I just kind of want to recount was the Apostle Paul. And if you don't know who the Apostle Paul is in the New Testament, he was a Roman soldier that basically taunted, tormented, killed Christians. That's what he did. He hunted them down and killed them and tormented them in terrible, horrific ways. One day he saw the light, and Jesus came to him. And Paul immediately switched. And he said, I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. So he was forgiven when he accepted Christ as his Savior for all those evil things he did. So yes, evil people, super evil people, can be forgiven and their souls will go to heaven. The Apostle Paul took that and went out and preached and built churches and did so many good things for Christ. And through that got arrested many times and was bound for death. Eventually he was killed. But there was one time he was in jail with somebody else, and forgive me for not recounting who he was in jail with, but they were basically doomed for death. And what ended up happening was they, instead of sitting in their sorrow, instead of saying, this is terrible, this is boring, we need a miracle. Yes, they needed a miracle. But they ended up jubilantly singing praises to God. Singing and singing. And there were other prisoners in there as well. And these other prisoners are going, we're in hell on earth right now. How can you be so happy? And they were like, we choose to be happy because God put us here. And if this is our demise, we greatly accept it because this is what God wanted for us. Even if we're martyrs, we are happy to do that for God. And they sang. And they were triumphant because as they sang, and the other prisoners started singing with them, and they all found this joy, their chains were released like a miracle. And they were all set free. So God works in mysterious ways. And they could have taken that moment and made it real sorrowful, terrible. They chose to find happiness in the worst moment of their life. And they sang those praises. And they were set free. Doesn't mean that miracle's going to happen for everybody. I realize that. But that does go to show how strong and convicted God is in taking the worst and making the best out of it. If you can do that, you might be really surprised the abundance that God will give you. So he's not boring. Don't go into it thinking he's boring. Go into it to find the excitement that you're missing in your life. You might really be surprised how richly you're rewarded. All right. On that note, be good, be kind, own the truth before the truth owns you. Love you. Bye.